Many years ago, I came across a marvelous book. It was called Jesus Before Christianity. It was written by Father Albert Nolan. This was his second book about Jesus. The first he called Jesus Today. But it was the second book that made such an impact upon me because he seemed to put into context the very essence of Jesus' life and his ministry. Nolan spoke of the kingdom of God, about which Jesus' ministry seemed to be a focus. It seems that from our understanding of that life and ministry, we know that what he was all about was this very thing, God's kingdom in our world. Time and again we have heard Jesus speak of this kingdom in the lives of the people who would come to listen to him. Those who came seeking forgiveness and healing within their lives. Here, Jesus would meet them. He would touch them at the very heart of their lives that needed that moment of encounter with their God. It was by his life and his ministry that Jesus would open in the lives of the poor and the outcast, the sick and the sinner, the wonder that was indeed God's kingdom in their midst. That was the story that unfolds before us each week through the Gospels into which we have immersed ourselves. We listen to the stories of Jesus' life. Then Albert Nolan appears on the scene with his two books on Jesus Christ. And it's the second book perhaps that has the greatest impact. Nolan also focuses upon this kingdom of God about which Jesus had spoken so often. But Nolan had come to realize that the kingdom of God, active in the world, was actually an upside-down kingdom. The world, both then and now, is so often caught up with the beautiful people. Our media and our internet resources highlight those people who are wealthy, the millionaires, the billionaires, and perhaps those wonderful actors who entertain us so often and are paid so significantly. We're so often hopeful that our story perhaps could even be their story. It seems that the kingdom of their world is all about power and prestige, wealth and authority. And as ordinary people, we are perhaps fascinated by the stories of those people. Then Albert Nolan offers us another image of kingdom. And I think it's an image that so wonderfully is caught up in the mountain of experience that day when Jesus spoke to the people who had come to him, the poor and the outcast, the sick and the suffering. These were the people that Jesus had come to invite to the banquet in the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God, he would tell us, would indeed be theirs. And therein lies the upside-down kingdom of God. It's not about wealth and power. It's not set aside for the prominent people who fill the media with their stories of opulence and grand lifestyle. Instead, the kingdom about which Jesus had spoken, this kingdom of God about which Albert Nolan had written, is a kingdom where the poor and the outcast are welcome. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven, Jesus would indeed tell us. The challenge for us, perhaps as people of faith, is to see the value of this kingdom, not as a place where the rich and the powerful are welcome, but rather a place for those who are poor, for the outcast, for those who perhaps have no voice in our world. If we are to be signs of God's kingdom in the world, it's our mission and our ministry to enter into the lives of such people and enable them to know that they are the reason that God's kingdom exists in our midst. Perhaps by our own sense of outreach and our sense of welcome and hospitality to those who may have no place in our world, we can endeavour to bring this upside-down kingdom to life by our mission of love and care for others. Somehow what Jesus had set out to do within his own time and by his own ministry of love and care, he endeavoured to show to the poor and the outcast, the sick and the sinner, that God was indeed on their side. And they would be the ones who would taste of the wonder of God's kingdom. Our world is filled with successful people, those who have studied to establish a career for themselves, and they are indeed a sign that we can achieve great things within our lives when we apply the talents that we have in our world. The kingdom of God, about which Jesus has spoken, is not against that success and that wealth. Rather, the kingdom is about making a difference in the lives of other people, no matter our position in the world. If we are kingdom people, then it's our role and our responsibility to enable this kingdom of God, this upside down kingdom, to touch the lives of those who perhaps have no voice in our world. Theirs is indeed the kingdom of God, Jesus has told us. Perhaps it's time for us, perhaps today, to play our part and to make this happen in the world, to enable that upside down kingdom to become a reality for those who are in need of the presence of God.